my
about her
point
being an older
about
woman.
her was that the Prophet was not afraid of powerful women. And so when Aisha, who was born powerful, like I could just imagine her birth coming out, she was just a powerhouse. As she was powerful when she was young, she challenged the Prophet ﷺ on more than one occasion. Like she would say, wait a second. And then she would say, you're saying this, but the Quran says this. I mean, that was how she was. And instead of quelching that, which some men would do, they would squash that in a woman because they don't want to have an equal. They want to have a subaltern, to use a nice postmodern term. You know, they want somebody who is under their thumb. He wasn't like that. He empowered women, and so they weren't afraid to speak up in his company. And that's why when the Ansar, and it's interesting because the Quraysh were they like crushed their women, which doesn't mean, you know, one of the myths about women is that they you know, that they've been oppressed for 10,000 years. This is the patriarchal, modern, feminist version, that for 10,000 years women have been oppressed, and now in this enlightened age, finally they're getting their rights in the last 100 years because of these white women that have revealed the double consciousness. First of all, if women have been oppressed for 10,000 years and finally started a woman's movement, then they deserve to be oppressed. Because it just shows you how idiotic they are as a group. The idea that women have been oppressed is just, it's a great myth. It doesn't mean that there has not been abuse, because men are physically stronger than most men are physically stronger than most women. You know, in logic, they have a very nice distinction called comprehension and extension. Comprehension is like a definition. So men are stronger than women by comprehension, not by extension. There are women that are stronger than men, and that happens. But by comprehension, and this is why men can use their muscles to overwhelm women. That happens a lot in relationships. That's why most domestic violence is men violating women. That's what happens, because physically they can do it. So when you civilize men, they learn that power, might, does not make right. That's not what makes right. That's what civilization is. So the law of the jungle is might makes right. The law of a civilized people is that right is right. And you should only use might to support right. That right does not come out of might. Might is there to support right. And so Aisha, the Prophet ﷺ, because Allah gave him Khadija, this very powerful woman who was very independent, and she nurtured him into his prophecy, and she was his source of solace, his source of material support and financial support, material support and spiritual support. The truth be told, she clearly gave him spiritual support when he was in crises. And so when the Quraysh came to Medina, they met the Yemenis, because the Ansar are from Yemen. They're Kahlanites. They're from Bani Kahlan, which are Yemeni. Now, Yemeni traditionally was not a true matriarchal culture, but it was closer to a matriarchal culture. The Yemeni women were very strong. And so the Ansar community was very different. The women were very strong. They had their own opinions. And you can see this in who did they choose to speak on behalf of the women. She was an Ansariya. She wasn't one of the Qurayshi women. She was an Ansariya. And so they were very strong. And the Quraysh, the men were getting a little unsettled because the Ansari women were like, what? You put up with that? And so they started talking back to the men. And the Qurayshis weren't used to that. When Omar found out that was happening, he got very upset. Then he found out his own daughter was doing it with the Prophet. And he was furious about it. But the Prophet ﷺ tell them not to do that. So that's my point, is that there are men that are going to be threatened by strong women.